Greetings, Bassketeers, Josh Fosgreen here, and today we're going to follow up on our last improv lesson, and we're going to try doing a more bass-line-y style improv. Last time was more of a melodic upper register thing. This time we're going to do more of an improv style where it's like coming up with bass lines kind of thing, or coming up with a bass line and then doing fills, more repetitive, more like what the bass player would do in a band. Versus what you can do with the bass guitar as a melodic or a solo instrument. So again, there's no PDF this week because we're just going to be improvising together, and I'm not going to give you any scripted stuff to play besides just following with me with the scale or something like that. So let's just jump right in. How's that sound? No long preamble today. So here's the loop we're going to be playing over. Let's just listen to it a couple times. So if we start by listening to the drums, boom, chick, kick, snare, kick, snare. It's a pretty simple, fundamental bottom of the drum pattern. There's a little fun stuff with the cymbals, but it's basically just boom, chick. And then we've got kind of a straight 16th line happening. I actually play that on bass. Something like that. So basically what we're working with here is the drum patterns going boom, chick, which gives us a lot of different rhythmic options that would work in bassline land, yeah, sure. And the chords up here are outlining an A minor chord. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use the same A minor scale we were working with last improv lesson, which again, you can watch my minor scale video if you're not already comfortable playing a 1-octave minor scale, but that's all we're gonna be working with. And again, I think we'll start with the first finger shape for the 1-octave minor scale, but we might also get into the second finger shape, and we'll talk about that when we need to. So, just quick review in case you don't feel like clicking on the minor scale video link, because so much work to click on buttons and stuff. 5th fret on the E string is the start for the A minor scale. Then we're going to go 5th, 7th, 8th frets on the E string, 5, 7, 8 on the A string, 5, 7 on the D string. And in note speak, that's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. And fingering wise, I'm going 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3. If I said that fast enough. Index, ring, pinky, index, ring, pinky, index, ring. And then same thing in reverse going down. So that's the A minor scale that makes up our vocabulary list. Now we're going to try to make phrases or sentences out of those vocabulary words. If you'll again forgive my boring language analogies. So let's say that this is, imagine that those bass chords are your guitar player and your drummer's grooving along and they're like, come up with the bass line, man, jam with us. Whoa, man, let's do a jam. So now you're like, okay, crap, I have to come up with something that works in that key and that sounds good with that drum part. So let's kind of take those issues one at a time. Let's start with not worrying about any notes except we'll play a root. And let's come up with sort of a skeleton for our bass line, which we can fill around. So this would be a really simple place to start because the kick is on 1 and 3, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, kick, 2, kick, 4, kick, 2, kick, 4. So I'm just going to start by playing a quarter note, root note on each one of those kick drums. Let's do that together if you don't already have this A note rocking. And actually, I kind of like this as a bass line. Maybe not for the whole song, but it works. It fits with the kick drum pattern, and it fits with the chord strumming because it's in the correct key and it's outlining the root note of the chords that the melodic instrument is playing, or the chordal instrument, I mean. So let's say we want to get a little spicier. Let's go ahead and add a hit on the and of 2. So we'll go 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4. Okay? So that'll be our starting point. So a really helpful way if coming up with fills on a bass line or coming up with a bass line at all is intimidating for you, first of all, is separate the notes and the rhythm so you're not having to come up with them both at the same time. Again, this is a strategy if this is something that's difficult for you. If you can just hear that loop and start grooving with a cool bass line, then this, you're a few minutes ahead of where we're at right now. So if you just stay on the root note and come up with a rhythmic pattern that works, then what you can do is you're already grooving, and then you can fill it in with some more interesting stuff. Like, let me just demo a little bit, and then I'll talk you through this. We'll do it together. So here's the loop. So here's our bass line, right? 1, 2, and 3. So what I'm doing there is I'm keeping our bass line going, boom, doom, 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 and then every 2 bars at the end of the bar, I'm putting a little flavor in there. So let's try doing that together in a simpler way, and I'll explain what I mean by flavor as we go. So our pattern right now, again, is 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3. So what we'll do is on the end of every second bar, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3. On 4, we'll put a flavor note. And when I say flavor, I just mean taking our basic bass line and then adding a little something to it. So normally we would rest on 4, 1, 2, and 3, rest. So at the end of the second bar, we'll put a quarter note there on 4, and that quarter note could be any note of the scale. For starters, let's get the loop going here again. Let's try going up to the 5th. So we'll go 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, up to the 5th. Do that again. 1, 2, and 3, rest. 1, 2, and 3, 5th. 1, 2, and 3, rest. 1, 2, and 3. Let's try another note. Let's go up to the 3rd. 1, 2, and 3, 3rd. I'll try the octave. 1, 2, and 3, octave. I'll try the 7th. So you can see we're already getting a lot of simple variations on the line just by adding 1 quarter note and picking any note from the scale. Seriously, pretty much any note would work. Maybe I wouldn't go for the 4th in this case, but it's just experimentation, so there's really not a wrong note. They all just sound how they sound, and what you're doing by doing this practice is getting to know what those sounds are so that when you have an inspiration, you can materialize it because you know that the sound you're hearing is going to come from your fingers going to the 5th, that kind of thing. So anything you do in this practice is good and builds experience. It doesn't have to sound incredible. So there's a sort of simple version of this where we're just coming up with a very basic root note based rhythmic pattern and then add a little fill at the end of it. What if we make that fill a little more interesting? Let's make it 2 eighth notes instead of a quarter note. So I'll go 1, 2, and 3. Same thing on the first bar. Second bar, 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1. So we're just adding 2 eighths instead of a quarter. Let's try that with the loop. Here we go. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3. So I went 5th, 7th there. Let's do that together. 5, 7. Now let's try 7th octave. Now let's try 3rd octave. I like that. Once you're comfortable in the 1 octave box, and you could go to the 2nd finger box too, you can start moving out of that box to whatever level is comfortable. Maybe just a couple notes out, like okay, this shape is an octave, so if I took an octave of the second note and the third note, I could get these notes up here and maybe do the same thing on the fourth and the fifth. So now I could go all the way up here. And then that gives me some more options. Oh, here we go. So even just getting 3 or 4 notes outside of your little 1 octave box can give you a lot more ideas and options. And you can go further too. If you're comfortable with a whole 2 octave scale, you can jump out there too. If you've done the beast exercise, you can go all the way up, all around. Just whatever feels like a possibility for you. Maybe push it, make it challenging a little bit once you're comfortable in the 1 octave box. Whether it's going a few notes outside, doing a full 2 octave range, or all across the neck. But again, I encourage you to do this with loops where you've got drums for the rhythm and then some kind of chordal instrument to reinforce the harmony. And also when you're doing this bassline style improv, unless you really know what you're doing, I encourage you to try to land whatever bassline you come up with. It doesn't have to be the one we did today. Try to land on the root on beat 1 at least every couple bars. Because sometimes what happens, I notice with beginners when I have them do scale-based improv, is that if I'll have them try to do a bassline and they'll do something more like... something like this, which actually sounds pretty good, but what you're doing when you say on another note of the scale, I won't talk and play while I do this. If you stay on another note of the scale besides the root for a sustained period of time, you're creating the effect of a chord progression. So what I was just doing was really creating like an A minor to A minor over E to an F major 7 to a D minor 7. So I'm creating a chord progression which is okay in some jam settings, but you don't want to accidentally be throwing in a new chord progression because the other people you're playing with might not catch on, or it might not fit with what they're doing. So be aware of that. It's not bad to create chord progressions in a jam scenario or non-jam improvisational scenarios, but you just want to know that if you're not coming back to the root every bar or two, it might not sound like you're staying on an A minor chord even though you're using the notes of the A minor scale. Alright, so I think we'll stop there for today. I really hope that this is helpful. And again, my goal with today and the last improv video is I just want to get you over the hump of feeling like I can't improvise, improvising is hard, improvising means I have to know a ton of music theory or whatever, because one of the things that really helped me the most when I first started playing bass is I was just pumped about it and I just couldn't wait to see like, okay, wow, I learned the C major scale. I wonder what sounds I can make by mixing up those notes and trying them in different combinations. So I feel like if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't be the bass player that I am, or even close. And so having that curiosity about, all right, here's a minor scale. I can practice scales all day and get really bored and then wonder what's the point of all these scales. Or I can throw on a cool track to jam with and see what kind of music I can make by using those notes in different combinations with different rhythms. And I think there's no end to the fruits you can harvest from this practice, and that's all the gardening analogies I'll use today. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you're getting a lot out of these videos, and thank you for all your nice comments. And thank you to my new patrons on Patreon. I've gotten some really generous new support in the last couple months, and I really appreciate that. If you would like to learn more about my Patreon thing, you can click on this link and I'll explain it all to you, and you can check out the rewards that are available to contributors at different levels, including access to my weekly music recommendations, early access to song lesson PDFs, and lots of other good stuff. I have a new book coming out in the next month or so which will talk about these 1-octave scale boxes and then moving beyond them with 1-string scales, 2-octave scale boxes, and stuff that'll get you from 1-octave scale box land all the way to crazy beastly scales and arpeggios land, which was the last book I did. So I'm really excited about that. It'll be available at joshfossgreen.com/books. I'm thinking in the next month or so. And have happy holidays, and I'll talk to you guys soon.